I mean, and my first question for you, Dipali, think back to your middle school years. What did you love to do when you weren't at school? You mentioned you didn't love math. What was your relationship with math and science like back then, whether it's in the classroom or out of the classroom? What comes to mind? Just, very quickly.
Sure. I think middle school years for me were the years when, I don't know, it just felt like I just turned into a rebel. I was asking a lot of whys and a lot of why nots. It didn't stop at home. It didn't stop at school. It just carried with me. Some of them were really good questions like, why is the sky blue? Or what happens when you turn a light switch on? Why does the light bulb suddenly shine? But then there were things that my parents really, really got annoyed with, like, why should I do this? So I think because I said so, stopped holding its gravity in middle school for me. Everything needed to have a reason. As far as my relationship with math and science went, I loved science. I loved looking at plants. I loved looking at animals. I loved looking at just chemistry and physics and all these things. Math, I hated. I scored lowest in math. I mean, I scored better in my languages than I did in math. And back in India, scoring good in languages was pretty hard. And as you can tell, I just said scoring good instead of scoring well. So my language is not good. So you could tell, you can tell like how bad I was really in math. I think it took 11th grade for me to really like math because of my teachers. But really in middle school, it was the beginning of the question why, which may have come across as annoying, but really was the seedling for my curiosity leading me into who I am today.
But Mamta, a question for you. Why do you think, this is something that came up in a conversation that we had recently, and I know you mentioned something about this. I was curious to have you share a little bit more. Why do you think, Mamta, that girls are so well suited to do science and to succeed in the sciences or in STEM or STEAM?
Well, I think girls and women are people that can work in teams, and I think today's science is not about individualism, but it's about teamwork. It takes a lot of different types of ideas to be able to move the needle in science. And I just think girls and women think more collaboratively and therefore they're just more naturally suited for the field of science. I think science requires also creativity, which I think, I think both boys and girls have that. But, I think that to me, it's really about working as a team, building consensus, and solving problems. And I think there's just something about maybe just it seems like that's what we as women do, start just finding the solutions to things, and whether it's just at home and figuring out all the timetables and when to take people to what events and things like that. We're good at doing that. I hope that people learn that science is not just about being in the laboratory, and it's just there's such a diversity, and you don't have to love math, but you do have to have curiosity, and that's the key. And I think then there's just so much that science can bring.
But let's think a little bit about how we use science, STEM, STEAM. I kind of use these terms interchangeably because I'm really asking everyone to look at this broadly. So, Lynn, give an example of how you use your own STEAM mindset in your everyday life.
So my everyday life, I wear very many hats, as you'll see I was looking at all the different things you had me listed as, and I'm very, civically engaged and give to a lot of organizations and do a lot of things. And so one of the things, and I feel like I'm going to echo a lot of what we just said, is that, when you've got a STEM mindset, you're able to think critically, you're able to, you're creative. So you're you're able to look at things under different lights and figure out the answer to the question. So in my everyday life, I have lots of decisions that have to be made and lots of challenges that I come across. And I'll pull upon that creativity, that critical thinking, to really get at the best decision for whatever I'm challenged with. I'm also someone that's very determined and resilient, and I think that's definitely a trait of someone with a STEM mindset. And then I'm always looking to find sustainable solutions. You know, it'd be easy just to find a solution to a problem, but if you're really looking at how you find a sustainable solution so you don't have to revisit that problem and you can change a system or a process to make things better as you go. So I pull upon everything in, you know, what I would say, you know, creativity, critical thinking, being resilient, of course, being determined, and then just using all of those skills to really make the right decisions and to move agendas and projects and big things forward. So, and creating things too, you know, being able to put things together. So, yeah, I use all those skills every day.
Thank you. And I think, you know, that's a good point. I mean, these qualities sort of it's obviously ingredients, you know, the building blocks, whatever you want to call it. And so, I mean, I hope that all the young people and their caregivers listening today, it's, you know, it's something you carry with you. It's a beautiful thing. You know, it's part of the human condition, having this mindset. And you can, like anything else, cultivate it, right? You can, if you're into playing basketball or volleyball or playing an instrument or just taking a walk, which you're all going to do later today, you can still use your STEAM mindset. So it's just a question of how you think about it. I'd like to ask everyone to continue to think about, you know, what does this thing that we are calling science mean to you? All right, Polly, if you could travel in a time capsule back to your middle school self, what advice would you have for your younger self?
Well, I'd try to get myself more involved in my studies. I was a happy middle schooler, but I was pretty busy writing courses and hiking and playing field hockey. And academics, I thought there were other kids in my class that were smarter than I was. I thought that I thought the boys were always had their hands up. And I just didn't think I had that much to offer. And it really took going to a single-sex high school to change that mindset for me. So I just say to all you middle school girls out there, you have so much to offer. Please do speak out and speak up. I also just want to say I came to STEM quite late in my life. You can still find out about science, you know, really more in my 50s. I just really wanted to talk about climate change. And I think fiction can be a great way to get at scientific issues or get kids thinking about science. So yes, you don't have to be a scientist in 4th grade or a scientist in 8th grade. You can get sciencey or at least be involved in the ideas of science even in your 50s and your 60s.
Thank you. And I know that many of the girls listening today probably have, you know, read your book and enjoyed it. And I myself was the middle schooler who loved reading and writing. To me, being a writer would have meant that I would have arrived. So you have arrived. I'm still working on it. But yes, I think that it's wonderful to use your own talents wherever you are and to connect to science that way, because often unknown to us all, we are doing science. And hopefully this conversation we're all having can help us kind of think back to look to our everyday lives and think about, oh, you know what, when I was doing that, I guess I was solving a problem and I was, you know, thinking critically and approaching it scientifically. And I don't know, that definition, I think, helps us all see ourselves in a different way. And I think that we are all scientists and we see ourselves that way. In addition to other things, the beautiful thing, as Lynn has illustrated for us, you don't have to be just one thing. You can be many, many things. I mean, it's a beautiful way to live your life.